Welcome to the very first segment of the UBT Journeys Yes, Nebraska series. I'm Kelly Robert. I am the Journey Program Manager. I'd like to thank Caitlin Moore and Nikki Davison, who help a ton with these. Couldn't do it without them. I'm so excited about our new series, which takes a look at arts in Nebraska. And I think the people who don't live here are always really surprised at our appreciation, just our love of the arts and how much goes on here. I know I was visiting a friend in Houston once, and I was talking about productions that I was seeing, and then also productions I was taking groups to through Journey Travel and different events. And her daughter was just incredulous that I was doing this in Nebraska and wanted to know where I was taking these people to do this stuff. And so I've always kind of had that in the back of my mind. Um, so this series just takes a look, as I said, at the arts in Nebraska and at the amazing and dedicated people behind them. Today, we are talking with Dean Haist, the president of Arts Incorporated, and Bob Krueger, who is a retired music educator and the music director for Lincoln Municipal Band. Um, these gentlemen are just incredible. I hope you read their bios, and if you haven't, well, I'd like for you to go back and do that. I've gotten to know them through Lincoln Municipal Band. I have the extreme pleasure of serving on the board for LMB. And so I'm just amazed by their talent and dedication to keeping the arts alive in our community. Or keeping the music alive. So that's the name of this week's segment, is Keeping the Music Alive. And I'm going to let them take the stage and tell you about the variety of musical events in our city and state the history of some of them and the lengths they'll go to make it happen. So we'll have time for questions afterward. You can use the chat feature to get those to me. And gentlemen, take it away.
Sounds good. Well, my name's Bob Krueger, and as she said, I'm the music director for the Lincoln Municipal Band, and I do a number of other things in the community and with music. Lifelong teacher in Lincoln. I've been here since 1985, retired just this fall. So it's my first year not teaching, which is kind of interesting. So about the Lincoln Municipal Band, I would guess, Dean, that we were one of the very first groups to come back and perform live during this last pandemic season around Lincoln, around the state of Nebraska. A little bit about the band. It's a concert band. And if you're familiar with bands like from high school and so forth, it's that kind of a concert band. It's about a 35-piece band. Clarinets, flutes, bassoon, oboe, trumpet, trombone, French horn, tuba, the whole 9 yards. And we perform pops music primarily, some classical music. We feature soloists. We play a lot of patriotic tunes, a lot of Americana. And for me, it's one of those kind of nostalgic things that makes Lincoln special. I think Lincoln is a great combination of a small town feeling with a lot of larger city amenities and opportunities. And this is one of those small town kind of Americana things, the park band, you know, you think of the Music Man musical or something like that, where you have the park band that performs in the summer. This band has been in existence since 1907. So we're now 114 years old. Been performing. They started at State Fair Park. Now we perform at Antelope Park on Sundays in July and August. We're the oldest professional music organization in the state. We're older than the Lincoln Symphony. We're older than the Omaha Symphony. And we use professional musicians. It's a professional paid ensemble. The quality of the musicianship is really high because of that, and it enables us to do a concert a week with all different music. So it's really a very, very unique group. Bringing music back in Lincoln was kind of an interesting challenge, and Dean will talk a lot about the different challenges the different groups had presented to them. One of the early challenges for us, timing wise, was everything went on pause at last March, and there were a lot of unknowns. It was unknown. At first we thought the virus was being spread in droplets, and then we found out more and more about how the virus was spread and what was considered safe and what was considered risky. One of the factors that went into that, a good friend of mine, Mark Speed, who's the director of the marching band at Clemson University, is also the head of the College Band Directors National Association. He's the president of that group. And he and his group commissioned some studies out of Colorado that had to do with how music instruments transmit aerosols. And as we became more and more cognizant of this virus being spread through aerosols, we figured we need to know as much as possible about, well, what happens when somebody plays a flute? What about a trumpet? Obviously you can't wear a mask all the time while you're playing those instruments. How do they disperse aerosols and so forth? And from that study came some pretty good guidelines that we got on how much to space apart between the musicians, how we should seat the audience. And instead of having the concerts on stage at the band shell, we moved them over into a larger grassy area. Dean and my wife and I and the Parks and Rec personnel, we all met in the park. We had some marker paint, and we went through with a measuring tape and marker paint. We set down where we would put all the different chairs and music stands and so forth. And we were able to put together a semblance of our concert season last August. We gave 5 concerts, I believe, Dean. And once again, I think that was close to being the first live music to happen again during the pandemic season. Another thing we were able to do last year, and we actually just completed last weekend for this year, one of the unique things about the Lincoln Municipal Band is we have a young artist competition. It's kind of part of our educational plan. And we audition students up through age 21, I believe. They submit recordings. I judge the recordings and I select finalists from those. And then the finalists perform live for a panel of judges. And then out of that group, we pick the top 2 winners. The second place person gets a check. The first place person gets a check and gets the opportunity to perform with us on our first concert. Last year, we were able to do that, but we were unable to have the live audition. So we had to take it from the recordings. We just last Sunday had our finalists for this year. We have a winner, Luke Anderson, a trombone player from UNL, and he'll be performing with us on our very first concert. So we're really excited about that. We're going to go back to our regular 7 concert season this summer. We're not really sure how we're going to set that up yet, as far as what CDC is saying and what the county is saying. Dean, have you had any further communication on that?
We haven't.
It's still a ways off.
Yeah, we last year and again this year, we have to apply to the health department for permission. We have to tell them what we're doing and how we're going to make things work. I think a big part of that is going to be how many of the musicians have been vaccinated. The Nebraska Jazz Orchestra, who just had their first concert in 15 months, all but one of their musicians had been fully vaccinated by the time we had a rehearsal. And the only one who hadn't had actually had the virus earlier this year. So they're probably more protected than those that were vaccinated. So we did a live stream event and it was indoors and we social distanced, but I'm guessing the majority of our musicians will be vaccinated, especially now that anybody's able to. The musicians really want to get back to doing what they love more than anybody else. So most of them are getting vaccinated. A lot of them are educators and getting vaccinated. So I'm hopeful that a good percentage, if not all, the musicians will be vaccinated by first concert in July.
So the plan is, for right now, unless we're told otherwise, the plan is for us to be able to hold our season as usual with concerts every Sunday night in July and August in Antelope Park. Well, we not the first Sunday in July because it's right on the 4th, I believe.
Yeah.
But the rest of July and then the rest of August, we will be doing our regular concert season. And we really, really look forward to that and seeing our audience again.
Thanks, Bob. My name is Dean Heist, and I'm a trumpet player by trade, but I also am involved in arts management. This is Sophie. Sophie's my office parrot. She's a Goffin's cockatoo, and she was a rescue bird. When she first came to us, she had plucked most all of her feathers off and kind of looked like a chicken breast in the meat market with a little bit of tuft of feathers on her head and her tail. And all she did when she first got here was to scream and bite. So she's really pretty well adjusted. She gets a lot of attention from my staff members. And she's here because if she were in the other room in her cage and she heard me talking, then you would hear her squawking because she wants to be a part of wherever I'm at. So she insists on being on my shoulder whenever I'm talking. I want to talk a little bit about some of the things I do. My business, Arts Incorporated, we've been in existence since the late 1980s, and we manage a number of nonprofit arts organizations, and we also produce a lot of music events in the community. One of the things that has been a lot of fun, and I'm going to go do just after we're done here today at 4 o'clock, I have a performance at Gateway Vista, which is a retirement center where my dad lives. And last fall, we did 4 outdoor concerts there. We were able to set up in the grassy area across their driveway, and the residents could listen from their balconies, or they could come down and sit out front in their wheelchairs and listen. And we did 4 performances with 4 different groups last fall. And this will be the 5th performance this spring with different groups. Most of them I play with, but not all of them. And that's really been a lot of fun. It's been especially nice this spring because they've been able to open up and allow family to visit and people that have been vaccinated. So they've opened up the performances to family members. And on Sunday when the Nebraska Brass played there, we had over 75 people who were listening from the balcony and sitting around the area in front of the building. So it's been a lot of fun doing that. One of the groups I work with is the Nebraska Brass. It's a professional brass quintet. And during a normal year, we would be presenting 5 series of concerts in communities around the state. Each of those series concerts, we would do 1 performance in the Lincoln area, 1 in Omaha, and then 3 in other communities. We, get out an hour or hour and a half or 2 hours away from Lincoln. And we perform mostly in churches because those venues provide a ready-made audience with their regular congregation. And also most churches have favorable acoustics to brass instruments and have music stands and that sort of thing. So it just makes sense for us to perform in those types of venues. So this year we only presented 6 concerts. They were all live stream from different churches. We've done 5 now and we have 1 more left. No audience, and but we've been really pretty fortunate to be able to do that and do as much outreach as we can. We've been having, sometimes hundreds, if not thousands of views on some of those live streams. We've been marketing them to musicians around the country and around the world, and it's interesting to see the comments that people have made while we're performing. And in many ways, we've reached far more people than we ever would have reached with our public performances through these live stream events. And it's really helped us to build up our social media, our Facebook numbers, and that sort of thing. We also have been doing every Thursday night before the pandemic, we had something called the Thursday Night Music Series. It was at Shea Soto. Shea Soto is, like a lot of places, a restaurant that was forced to close as a result of the pandemic, and we stopped performing there last March. But in August, we started putting together some live stream performances once a month. And then for the last 2 or 3 months, we've been doing things once a week. Vine Congregational Church here in Lincoln has been very kind and has opened up their church for us to present those events. So, and I want to go back to what Bob was talking about. When we first decided to present the Lincoln Municipal Band last summer, we scheduled the 5 concerts, and then we applied for something called the Music Performance Trust Funds. And those are funds that come through the Professional Musicians Association. They're allocated to each of the locals in the various communities around the country. And they help to provide a percentage of the musicians' pay for events that are free to the public. And we were just flabbergasted when we applied for funds for those 5 concerts. They got back to us right away and said, we're going to fund 100% of your musician costs for those 5 events. And that was in August, and we thought, boy, that's pretty amazing. And then in conversations with the people who administered those funds, we discovered that most of the communities around the country, their fiscal year started in May, most of the communities had simply gone dark in terms of their public performances. Orchestra and community band concerts in the park, concert series that were outdoors, those things just were not happening anywhere around the country. And they all of a sudden had a lot of funds. So we thought, gosh, we'll help them with that. So we started to put together live stream events and found ways to prevent events. And while Nebraska's normal allocation for funding in a fiscal year is $3,000 from that fund, this last year we have had more than $100,000 that has come to support live performances here in Lincoln, both the Gateway events that I mentioned earlier and the live stream events that our various nonprofits are doing, the Lincoln Municipal Band. All of them have been funded through this fund. So it's really been a pretty amazing thing. We've had more than 80 different events that we're able to present live stream and in person, and it almost seemed a little bit normal in terms of the number of events that are happening, except that most of them didn't have any audience. So Kelly and Bob and I were visiting earlier. It's as a musician, you're just so used to having feedback from an audience. You get done playing and there's silence if you're doing a live stream, and you don't really know what to do. And so we noticed, looking at the videos with some of our musicians when we first started doing this, that you'd be done playing and then there wouldn't be any feedback. And so, it just almost is a negative thing to you when there's nothing coming back. So you might frown, or you might look down and change your music or change your instruments or whatever. So we've had to, remind our musicians after you're done playing a piece, you don't have to make a goofy smile, but, smile a little bit, look like you enjoyed it, and don't just look down at the floor and change your music around. It almost looks like you're angry when you're done playing if you're not careful. So we've had to learn how to perform in front of no audience, and that's been an interesting thing. So I'll let Bob talk a little bit. He's involved in a lot of different groups here in the community, and a couple of the groups that we've been able to present a number of live stream events for are groups that Bob is involved with, either as a musician or plays on the board, and I'll let him talk about a few of those.
Well, and I'm going to embarrass Dean a little bit here. He spoke of most of the country going dark and not having music, not having live performances, just really nothing happening. And it's because most of the country doesn't have a Dean Heist in their town. And without his business and without his drive and without his knowledge of where to find, what nooks and crannies to go through to find money, to find places to play, to organize all this stuff in a safe manner, it wouldn't have happened. So we owe a lot in this community to what Dean does. The Capital Jazz Society is the first one Dean listed for me to talk about here. And that's a group that started, gosh, Dean, 25 years ago, maybe 30, a while back.
It's been around for a while. It was active as a performing organization before it became an official nonprofit. Right. I should know, but I don't.
Well, the impetus for forming that was a long time ago. Dean and myself and about 4 or 5 other people that play in the Nebraska Jazz Orchestra wanted to set up some kind of what's known in the business as a reading band. And a reading band is where musicians will come together. There'll be a book of charts, a book of arrangements to play, and you sight read them. And it's been kind of an industry thing to do. It started back in the 1960s. On Monday nights in New York City, there was a band that played every Monday night at the Village Vanguard called the Thad Jones Mel Lewis Jazz Orchestra. And that started as a reading band because Monday night is a dark night in New York City. Musicians generally don't have Broadway shows, for instance. That's Broadway's night off. And so they would gather and they would read music for fun and to challenge themselves and to meet other musicians. We wanted it for that purpose, but we also wanted to get the opportunity. I mean, this is a college town. It's a town with very strong high school music programs. We wanted to have an opportunity for professionals, college students, high school students to all kind of mix together and have an opportunity to perform big band jazz. So we formed this Monday night big band back in the 90s, I'm going to say around 96, 97. You think, Dean?
Yep, I'm around there.
And it pretty much played in various different outlets as the places we kept moving to would then close. It wasn't our fault, as far as we know. And but we kept finding different places to play, and it continued to be a very, very successful program. Dean's office did a wonderful job of managing it and making sure musicians would be there every Monday night. And our most recent venue was Shea Soto. And up until the pandemic, there was still a Monday night band that was playing there almost every Monday, probably twice a month. And then on other Monday nights, it would be a different, smaller jazz group. And often we would have more than one night a week where we were presenting live music. And so that had been going on for a few years at Shea Soto. And then the pandemic happened. Everything kind of came to a halt. And we had to find other ways of getting things out there. So since then, the Capital Jazz Society, along with some of Dean's other groups, have been performing out of that same church about once a week. Correct me if I'm wrong there, Dean, but it's been every Friday night.
Capital Jazz Society has been every Friday night, and the Thursday night music series has been every Thursday for the last
Thursday night.
3-4 months.
Yeah. So these are live streams. Unfortunately, one of the rules of the Music Performance Trust Fund money is that you're able to live stream, but they don't want you to record it and then rebroadcast it and keep it on YouTube. I'm correct about that. Yes, Dean. And the reason for that is they're really wanting to support live music. So the live stream that goes out there and then is finished, that's as close as you get to a live concert as possible. So we've been doing those live streams with the Capital Jazz Society for several months. The Nebraska Trumpet Ensemble has been doing the same. They've been rehearsing and then putting on live stream events. They just did one at Hastings College, right? Last Friday did one at Hastings College. So those have been going on since winter time, I think. The Nebraska Jazz Orchestra just finished. Normally we do about a 5 concert series that lasts from about September or October through May. And this year we did not perform in the fall. We did have one small group session that we put together as an educational video. And then we did another small group session this spring. But as a full big band, the Nebraska Jazz Orchestra had not played together in probably 15 months. And we came together for a short little 1.5 hour or so, maybe 2-hour rehearsal. And then a couple days later, we set up at Old Pavilion in Antelope Park, and we did a live stream concert. And we have 2 more of those coming up. I believe the next one is May 18th.
That sounds right.
Yes. And then we have one June 1st or 2nd or 3rd.
June 3rd.
June 3rd. So we have those live streaming events coming up. On our first concert, we also were able to feature, we had a Young Artist Award winner for this group as well. And we were able to feature her. The catch was when she auditioned to play last year with us and then didn't get to. She was a senior in high school. Now she's in college, right? So she's going to Lawrence University in Appleton, Wisconsin. So she actually did a little video of herself with her piano trio at Lawrence University, sent that to us, and then that became part of our live stream as our featured Young Artist Award winner. And I believe on the next concert, is that the one we're featuring the Young Lions, or is that in June?
The next concert is this year's Young Artist.
Okay, there you go.
The concert in June will feature the Young Lions audition group of young musicians.
Right. The Young Lions Band is a full big band that's auditioned from area students, both college and high school students. They'll come together, rehearse 2 or 3 tunes, and they'll be playing on that live stream. Will they be playing in the same room with us, or will they tape differently? Okay. So it'll be basically exactly as it would be if we were playing a live concert. It'll just be with no audience except for those that are join us online. But as Dean said, that's been a unique experience, and it's been an adjustment for us. But man, it was sure fun to get to play in that group again.
Bob mentioned some of the educational outreach that some of the groups do, and the Nebraska Jazz Orchestra, the Nebraska Brass, and the Nebraska Trumpet Ensemble each year. Also, the Lincoln Municipal Band gets into the public schools. 3 of them normally do performances. The Nebraska Brass normally does 8 or 10 performances in the Lincoln, Omaha area. Trumpet Ensemble does a couple in Lincoln. Nebraska Jazz Orchestra does a couple in Lincoln. The Lincoln Municipal Band sends a group of 7 or so musicians into middle schools, and they work with a middle school band for the first half of their class period, and then they come back with that band and play with them for a half an hour, which is, it's always fun. I'm as a trumpet player, you know, and you sit down with a middle school band, and I don't think about it all that much, but evidently I play with a bigger sound than a lot of middle school trumpet players do. So you sit down with a group and you start to play, and the row of flutes and clarinets that are directly in front of you stop playing and turn around and look at you, which is always interesting.
And then they move their chairs forward.
Yeah. But anyway, 3 of the groups, the Trumpet Ensemble, the Jazz Orchestra, and the Nebraska Brass, were able to get together this last fall and record an educational video. And those have been really successful. My staff went into the Nebraska Public Schools website and collected all of the addresses from all of the schools, not just public, but all the schools in the state of Nebraska. We found 1,300 different schools that we sent these materials to. And what we did is we created each one as a YouTube video. You can find it on YouTube. And then we also created a set of worksheets for each video. One was appropriate for elementary students, one for middle school, and one for high school students. So if you're an elementary band director and you want to teach your 5th graders or your 4th graders about the brass instruments, you can watch the Nebraska Brass video, and then there's a worksheet that the kids can fill out, and you can have some discussion afterwards. And we've really received a lot of positive feedback from those videos. So similar to our live stream concerts, we probably reached thousands and thousands more students than we would have reached had we performed in, actually in those school settings. So all those things have been fun and good for, us, and good for music education, I think. So we've been looking forward to that, and we're hoping this next year that we'll be able to get back into the schools. We don't know yet how that's going to work, and we're just kind of wait and see this summer how things progress and what starts to happen around the country and what we're able to do. So, but educational outreach is a huge part of most of the nonprofit music groups that I work with.
Yeah, I know the municipal band in the past has sent representative musicians from each section to go and do those kinds of things. And looking forward to being able to do those kinds of things again, to be back in the schools. As things, it felt part of this was just personal, because I'm now about 3 or so weeks past my second shot, my second Pfizer shot. So I'm feeling fully vaccinated and relatively safe. And you could start to see, May 1st was kind of a day where things started to seem a little more normalish around Lincoln somewhat. First of all, it was like 88 that day. So it was a beautiful day to be outside. But my wife and I went down and walked around the farmers market a little bit, and there were people there. And, it was nice to see that happening again. There was the football game, baseball game, just lots of stuff going on that day. I had a friend who had a show me your card party, which was outdoors, but everybody had to be vaccinated and then they could come to this party. So things are starting to gradually creep back into, the way Lincoln used to be pre-pandemic. I know things are starting to open up a little bit. The Lead Center is starting to have some limited seating events. The third chair chamber players, I'm sure, will start up soon. They took the year off, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them reappearing sometime soon. I know Aubin Music had some online events. Arts for the Soul and Brian Faulkner had some live stream events this year. And I know through talking to other musicians and some of my former students that I know that, for instance, there's a jazz jam that started out here, and there is the Zoo Bar, I know, is presenting live music again. I'm pretty sure. I've seen some folks talk about playing there. So one of the cool things is we may have had more live music available to our community in Lincoln than any place else this size or per capita, if you want to think of it that way, in the United States. So we've been very, very fortunate, but we still look forward to getting back to what we used to have. I mean, that'll be something that's really shows us we're back, I guess.
One of the things my business, Arts Incorporated, does, besides managing the nonprofits groups that Bob and I have been talking about, is we coordinate with the Lincoln Community Foundation to present their garden performance series. And last year we had hired groups for May through September. 26 groups, I think, were hired. And then everything shut down. The community foundation, everyone there was working remotely, and they, locked up their garden, and it wasn't open this last year. But thanks to their fundraising and their commitment, all of those groups were paid for what they've been contracted to do last year, which is a really nice thing for the music community. This year they waited a while to decide what they're going to do, but now they contracted with us to hire groups for July, August, and September. So we'll have 13 groups that we're very hopeful will be allowed to do outdoor live performances with social distancing there at the garden. It's a beautiful, beautiful venue. The concerts are on Wednesday at noon, and we get a lot of people that work downtown. Will stop in with their sack lunch, and a number of the retirement communities and different facilities around Lincoln will send a bus of people in, and they'll bring in their lawn chairs. The Downtown Lincoln Association helps each year setting up chairs around the area, and it's just a great venue. It's covered, and there's fountains, there's lots of flowers and birds, and it's just a real pleasant place to sit down and enjoy some music over the lunch hour. So we're really looking forward to doing that again this summer. My business also contracts musicians for a lot of different things that happen around the Lincoln and the Omaha and out even into the middle part of the state. In the past, we booked musicians for touring shows like at the Nebraska State Fair for the Temptations. We've done that here in Lincoln and up in Omaha as well in the last few years. I book an orchestra where we have one scheduled. They're going to present the Messiah in Henderson in December. Again, we do that every 3 years, and they skipped this last year, but they're going to do that event, so we're looking forward to that. We also provide an orchestra for the Nutcracker at the Lead Center each year. This last year, they moved their performances from December to March, and they, because of limited seating at the Lead Center, they didn't hire a live orchestra, but they did present 4 performances, and it really looks like they're planning on doing their regular 3 live performances with a full orchestra in December this next year. So we're looking forward to doing that. I also get a lot of calls. We're not really a talent agency or anything like that, but we get lots and lots of phone calls from people that are looking for a string quartet for a wedding or something like that. And while we don't, I've kind of gotten out of booking musicians for things that I'm not personally involved with. We'll share the list of string quartet leaders with them, or if we get a lot of calls for music where they really don't have a budget. They've got a worthy cause, they want some music for this or for that. And we really try really hard to connect them with groups, some of the high schools, some of the UNL groups, some of the community groups. We try to find ways for them to, have some live music, even if it's not something where they have a budget for a professional group. So we do a lot of referrals and a lot of connecting people with the appropriate kind of music. It's sometimes a challenge. I had somebody call the other day and wanted to know if there's any mariachi bands around here. And well, there aren't any in Lincoln that I know of, but there's 2 or 3 in Omaha. And I was able to connect them with someone who knew the musicians in that community, and they ended up finding a mariachi band for their events. And it was nice to be able to help them out. One of the other things that we do here is we book musicians for some of the touring shows, touring Broadway and other shows that come through the Lead Center. I was, fortunate enough to play trumpet and also book the musicians in the pit for Book of Mormon. They did 2 weeks a year or so ago at the Lead Center. Phantom of the Opera this last year, or year before, I guess, and half a dozen or so other Broadway shows over the course of the year. We've also booked musicians for the Nebraska Repertory Theater and other events around the community. So we do really quite a few things. In the course of a normal year, I probably will have hired 140 or 150 different musicians for events that we produced out of our office. This last year, we had, I think, 80 or so different performances with 60 or more different groups in the community, probably 125, 130 musicians that had an opportunity to play, mostly live streaming this last year. So that's really what my business is all about. I have half a dozen part-time employees. I have someone who hires musicians for me. I have someone who comes in and takes care of my technology needs, my computers, or keeps our server running and works on our web pages. I have 3 or 4 different staff members that work with the different nonprofits and help to coordinate that. I have an accountant that comes in twice a week. Nobody ever sees him. He comes in at 5 a.m. on Tuesday and Thursday before he goes to his regular accounting business. As a musician, I don't understand 5 a.m., unless it's coming back from a late gig in Kansas or something like that. But anyway, he comes in on Tuesdays and Thursdays and helps with all of the accounting for my business and the various nonprofits. So, but anyway, I'm just delighted to be able to be a part of so much music in our community. I know, as Bob said, talking to other musicians from around the country, you start talking about what you're doing and they're just astonished. They can't believe that there's that much happening here in Lincoln, Nebraska. And we're really, really fortunate to be able to do what we do. Kelly, are there questions? How does that work?
Wow. And I know a lot of this, and still when I listen to you, I think, oh my goodness, you guys really are amazing. You truly are. And can you believe all of this is going on in Lincoln, Nebraska and surrounding communities. The questions that I have, the the three that I received ahead of time, curiously enough, those people are not here. So they'll have to see the answer when they watch the recording. And the first one just cracks me up. And I have to give you a little bit of background, is in 2019, I think, we did a little journey day trip, the journey travel program, and we did a day trip took a day trip to Nebraska City. And we were there all day and we had lunch at a kind of an institution, not Nebraska City. I'm making stuff up now, to Wilbur. You're like, where are you going with this? I'm not going anywhere with Nebraska City. It was Wilbur. And so the lunchtime entertainment was a polka band and dancing. And we hit all the hot spots in Wilbur. And the culmination of that, the trip was called Kolachian Concerts. And of course, we saw the Nebraska Brass concert at the Lutheran Church. We had the big dinner. And I had purchased some Nebraska Brass DVDs. And so when we did the door prizes on the way home, some of the winners got the music and they were so excited to hear it. We played it, we listened to it on the coach on the way home. And so the first question is, does Nebraska Brass still sell their music, and how can we get it if we're not traveling? So the first question, could you get any more random than that?
Yes, we've recorded 5 CDs now, and they're available through our office. I think they're probably available online for download, if you want to go that direction. But you can give us a call, you Google Nebraska Brass or Arts Incorporated, and we'll be happy to send one of them out to you. And the Nebraska Jazz Orchestra also has a half a dozen or so CDs that we've recorded, and those are also available.
Great, thanks. Now this next one is, how do you select your music? But they didn't specify which group that was for.
Well, I'll take that one since that's my job for the Lincoln Municipal Band. The first thing that we do is we decide on themes, and that usually happens somewhere around February, mid-February to March, somewhere in there. We decide what our themes are going to be, and then once we've decided, we have a number of guest conductors. So once we have decided the schedule and each conductor knows what the themes are for their concert, that helps to shape our music selection. So for instance, if it's a movie night, bring your popcorn, it's movie night at the park. So if that's the case, then obviously we would be looking for band arrangements of musical sound or movie soundtracks and so forth. If it's a salute to military, to those who have served, then we're going to be doing a lot of patriotic music. So the theme can have a bit of an influence on how we select the music. We also have, and this is a format that we stole from a pretty good band, the Sousa Band, back, around the turn of the previous century. He had a pretty set format that he would follow in his band concerts. And for instance, starting with the Star Spangled Banner and then playing a march and then playing an overture and then playing a couple of pieces that would appeal to the general public and then maybe featuring a soloist and so forth, ending with a march. We kind of follow that format. So that helps us choose our music. And then I think the thing that I like to keep in mind is that I want the audience and the band to both go home happy. So I want the band to have had fun and be challenged and feel like it was interesting music to play. And I want the audience to go home with a smile on their face. So that's kind of where I am with selecting music.
And I think the other groups that I work with are similar. The Nebraska Jazz Orchestra also starts with a theme and maybe a guest artist. And then the Ed Love, the music director, will work with that guest artist to pick some selections that they want to do. And then we'll build the concert around that theme. Sometimes there's a young artist, or the Young Lions are joining the group. So again, having a theme helps to kind of shape the music, and keeping the musicians and the audience happy is always a good thing to keep a balance of. The Nebraska Brass, we follow a similar pattern. We also, when we're putting together our series of concerts in advance, we'll pick a theme, and sometimes we stick pretty close to the theme. Sometimes we don't. The concert we just did was an all-American Pops concert, and while the majority, I want to say 80% of the music was American and Pops music, we slid a few other pieces in there by European and other composers, but they were familiar, and they were things that were fun to play and fun to listen to. So we have 3 of the members of that group, the French horn player Rick Ricker and the other trumpet player Brad Obink, and I are kind of the music committee. The other musicians are from Omaha, and it's hard for them to get together here in Lincoln, but we'll usually get together a couple months in advance of each concert and select a program. We've got a database that lets us know when we played things before and what we played and what we haven't. The Nebraska Brass has a library approaching 1,000 different pieces of music. The Nebraska Jazz Orchestra's library is getting close to 2,000 pieces of music. The Lincoln Municipal Band, I think, has over 2,000 pieces of music in their library. So there's a lot of things to choose from. The Nebraska Trumpet Ensemble this last year, we did 2 concerts and 2 live stream concerts. And then we also did a concert in Hastings College where one of our members teaches. We did 2 performances at Gateway, one in the fall and one recently this spring. We did 2 performances last fall and one this spring on the Thursday Night Music Series. And we also recorded that video. So we had that group of musicians together for almost, counting rehearsals, almost 15 different opportunities this year, which was really a lot of fun. We discovered that when you play that often with the same group of musicians, it gets easier and you get better at it, and it sounds better. And so that group played more this last year than they have ever played in their 12 years existence, and we were able to tackle some really pretty challenging music for the last couple of concerts. And we just turned in our music folders, and I think we probably have 30 different pieces of music that we performed at least once on one or more of those concerts or performances this year. Also, another thing that group did this year is we invited soloists to present recitals from around the country. We focused on trumpet players that had some connection to Nebraska, either grew up here in Lincoln or went to school at UNL. And we've had 3 of those so far. Ryan Beach, he grew up here in Lincoln, went to Lincoln High School, I think, didn't he, Bob?
Yep.
And he's a principal trumpet of the, it's in Birmingham, Alabama, the Symphony.
Yep.
And we also had Kelly Rossum, a marvelous trumpet player from Newport University in Virginia Beach, gave a live stream recital of mostly electronic music, trumpet and electronics. Charles Saines recently gave a performance from his University Bowling Green, and Alan Winger has one that's coming up this spring from University of Kansas, Missouri. Where does he teach?
I think he's in the University of Missouri system, but I'm not sure which one.
So anyway, that's happened this year as well. So we've really been busy, not only that organization, but the other groups. So it's been a lot of fun. That was a rambling answer to your question, Kelly.
No, I loved it. This one I know the answer to is what are the themes for the Lincoln Municipal Band concerts for this year? And we're not divulging those yet. Is that correct? Or you are not?
Oh, I'd be happy to share them with you. I have my master cheat sheet here.
Oh, perfect.
This is what we actually use in our office here, and you can see it's full. We have to shrink the font. These are all the events that we produced out of our office since the pandemic shut things down. And we sometimes refer to this as our pandemic calendar, but we had so many things going on. We need it all in one place so that my staff members, when they get a phone call or they're trying to put something together, they go, oh, that's when this is. So I actually have that. July 11th is kind of our tribute to, the older generation. The theme is You Make Me Feel So Young. The July 18th concert is, we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of Disney World. So I'm sure there'll be some Disney music there. The July 25th concert is titled Picnic in the Park, Bring the Family. We've had a lot more people bring their blankets and their picnic dinners to our concerts. August 1st is the music of Hollywood. August 8th is music for cruising. We'll have a classic car club that will bring their cars and have them on display there. August 15th is a tribute to teachers back to school, and we allow people to recognize their favorite music or favorite educators in our program. And our final concert on August 22nd is a Veteran Salute, Home of the Brave. We allow people to recognize veterans in the program. So for $5, you can have your favorite teacher and your favorite veterans memorialized in the program. And sometimes for those veterans programs, we have an extra 4, 5, 6 pages of veterans that are being memorialized by people come to those concerts. So it's a lot of fun.
And often, to put in a little plug for the UBT Journey program, often it's the Journey program that sponsors that concert. Gentlemen, I don't want to take up too much of your time. Susan had a request for a copy of Dean's cheat sheet, but we know we can get the program to you, Susan. His cheat sheet is probably classified, but we can get the program to you.
I'll send it to Kelly, and with the qualification that it's not meant for public consumption. It's not very pretty. We've had to readjust it every time we schedule something new. So we just, we got to add more events. So we got to make this smaller and crunch it down. But I'll send it to you. It's an interesting thing to look at.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Well, thank you to our attendees for joining us today. And thank you very much to our presenters, Dean Heist and Bob Krueger, the men behind the music. And I hope that you learned something today. I know I learned a ton. If you'd like to join us next week, and we sure hope you do, we have Dr. Jean Lukesh with Are You Smarter Than a Fourth Grader? So until then, be well, have fun at your concert. Dean and Bob, you have fun in retirement, and we'll see everyone soon.
Thanks
so much.
Thanks, Kelly.
It was our pleasure. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.